When the emperor was about to banish me to the cold palace, I heard his thoughts. So annoying. I won't be able to hold the empress in my arms tonight. Why isn't the empress begging me? Beg me quickly, and I'll take back the order right away. Can I just live in the cold palace too?
Welcome to a journey of love and destiny under the moonlight. I'm the voice behind Moonlit Love Stories. Now let us step into the story.
Song Guifei's father accused my father of treason and colluding with the enemy. He even presented a thick stack of secret letters as evidence. It said His Majesty was furious after reading them and immediately had my father imprisoned. He also sealed off the Prime Minister's residence and sent my mother, my elder brother, and his wife to the imperial prison to join my father. By evening, the imperial procession arrived at the Empress's palace. Xie Yan stood before me, hands behind his back, his cold gaze fixed on me. Eunuch Li finished reading the decree banishing me to the cold palace, and the bright yellow scroll was handed to me. As I knelt and reached out to receive the imperial edict, I suddenly heard Xie Yan's voice. So annoying. I won't be able to hold the empress in my arms tonight. Why isn't the empress begging me? Beg me quickly, and I'll take back the order right away. Can I just live in the cold palace too? I looked up at him in surprise, but Xie Yan remained exactly as he was before. When I lowered my head again, the voice returned. What's wrong with the empress? Beg me, beg me, beg me. Can't she see I've been standing here for ages? The cold palace is nowhere near as comfortable as the empress's palace. She can't possibly actually want to go there, can she? So I tentatively spoke up. Your Majesty. Xie Yan immediately looked at me, a trace of anticipation on his face. Does the Empress have something to say? I accept and thank your Majesty for this decree. The next moment, Xie Yan's voice returned. Accept what decree? Thank what grace? Quick, say you don't want to go to the cold palace. Empress, don't be foolish. The cold palace has nothing. Especially not me. Yet I clearly hadn't seen his lips move. So, was I hearing Xie Yan's inner thoughts? The palace maids quietly packed some bedding, preparing to accompany me to the cold palace. Xie Yan still hadn't left, just stood to the side watching us coldly. As I finished packing and passed by him, he suddenly reached out to stop me. Is the Empress preparing to live comfortably in the cold palace? I looked back. Each maid was holding an armful of items. Bedding, warming stoves, even a food box. I was supposed to be reflecting on my faults in the cold palace. Bringing these was really rather shameless. Chun Tao put the food box back. Chun Tao, holding the food box, reluctantly returned it to the palace. As soon as she left, Xie Yan's voice appeared again. She packed all this but didn't think to bring me? Am I not important? Wait, I'm so angry I'm stupid. How can I compare myself to these things? I'll push her a little more. I refuse to believe she won't beg me. Empress, this golden thread soft quilt is a tribute from foreign lands. Isn't it inappropriate to take it to the cold palace? I looked at the quilt in Xiaohe's hands. Hesitantly I said, Your Majesty, I would freeze to death in the cold palace. I finished with a slight frown. You begging me? Just for a quilt? Empress, beg for something else. I really don't want to sleep alone. I have 100 more golden thread soft quilts in the treasury. I'll give them all to you. It's all the Prime Minister's fault. What's the point of colluding with the enemy and committing treason? Your Majesty, if there's nothing else, I shall proceed to the cold palace. Xie Yan and I were childhood sweethearts, married for 10 years. This was the first time something so bizarre as hearing inner thoughts had happened. Perhaps if I begged him, he really would let me stay. But my father's crime was treason, a grave offense. I couldn't bring myself to beg. It was better to obediently stay in the cold palace. To be honest, I didn't understand either. My father was doing perfectly fine as Prime Minister. Why would he be so foolish? As I stepped out of the Empress's palace gate, I heard Xie Yan's thoughts again. If the Empress won't beg me, I'll rely on myself. I'll climb the cold palace wall tonight. That night, Xie Yan indeed climbed the cold palace wall. He probably just didn't expect that I'd still be awake, sitting on the edge of the bed watching him suddenly barge in. We stared at each other wide-eyed. Oh no, oh no. I, the Emperor, was caught climbing the wall into the cold palace. Let me think of an excuse. He cleared his throat, looking quite uncomfortable. I'm just here to see if the Empress is properly reflecting on her faults in the cold palace. We've been apart for 2 hours. Why doesn't she look like she misses me at all? The Empress's heart is so cruel. She doesn't even care whether I'll be able to sleep tonight. Could it be that the Empress is the one committing treason? Has she taken a fancy to some other country's emperor? I'll find a chance to destroy them all. Hearing Xie Yan's bold declaration, I almost laughed out loud. I barely managed to hold it in. Your Majesty, the night is deep and the dew heavy. You should return and rest early. Rest? How can I rest? Don't you understand the misery of a lonely pillow? Heavens! Tell me, what reason can I use to legitimately stay here? The window was open. A gust of wind from somewhere blew out the candle on the table. Xie Yan's eyes, fixed on me, gleamed like stars. Empress, I remember you're afraid of the dark? Perhaps I should. Your Majesty, I am not afraid of the dark. The candle was meant to be extinguished anyway. I'm afraid of the dark. I'm afraid of the dark, all right? The imperial bedchamber without the Empress is cold and dark. How can you expect me to sleep? I'm so pitiful. The sovereign of a nation. Yet I can't even sleep with my Empress. What a great injustice. Xie Yan left in a huff. He wasn't watching his path as he went out and bumped into the doorframe. I'll have someone tear down this doorframe tomorrow. How utterly infuriating. That night, covered with the golden thread soft quilt, I didn't sleep very well. I dreamt that Xie Yan was chasing me with a large cleaver, saying he'd chop me up and make me into a pillow. He chased me all night long. At daybreak, Chun Tao slipped back with breakfast stolen from the imperial kitchen. I was eating steamed buns and pumpkin porridge, mentally debating whether to go back to sleep, when Xia He came rushing over. Chun Tao scolded her. Slow down, look how flustered you are. Xia He took a sip of water. Your Highness, I heard from the palace servants that His Majesty threw a huge fit in court this morning. Chun Tao's eyes widened with curiosity. Did you find out what it was about? Xia He shook her head sheepishly. I calmly finished the last spoonful of porridge in my bowl. Probably just morning temper. Xie Yan had always had a terrible temper upon waking. If he didn't sleep well, he'd be irritable. I wondered if he'd slept at all last night. Come to think of it, this was the first time since our marriage we hadn't slept in the same bed. Even the night Song Guifei entered the palace, he had stayed in my palace. Song Guifei had been so angry she smashed several high-quality white jade vases. His Majesty arrives. Hearing Eunuch Li's announcement, I hurriedly had Chun Tao and Xia He clear away the leftover breakfast from the table. If discovered, stealing food next time would be difficult. Just as they finished, a figure in bright yellow appeared before me. Did the Empress sleep well last night? I bowed to Xie Yan. Quite well, thank you for your concern, Your Majesty. She actually slept well. I didn't. I didn't sleep well at all. I didn't sleep a wink all night. Hearing the familiar voice, I instinctively looked up at Xie Yan. It was fine until I looked, then I got a shock. His face was full of anger, with dark circles under his eyes. The Empress doesn't know how to care for me at all. I look like this, and she doesn't even ask what's wrong. No, I must sleep with the Empress tonight. If I don't sleep soon, I'll die. Your Majesty. I looked at Xie Yan and suddenly spoke. What does the Empress want to say to me? Is she going to show she cares about me? Say it, say it. I'm going crazy. I'm the king of impatience. I held back a laugh. Your Majesty just finished morning court, right? Have you eaten? Xie Yan paused. No. As if on cue, his stomach rumbled. Shall I accompany you for a meal? I blinked at him. The steamed buns and porridge Chun Tao stole weren't much. I wasn't full. Xie Yan's face remained cold. I, the son of heaven, cannot possibly eat breakfast in the cold palace. My hint should be clear enough, right? Empress, quickly beg me to take you out of the cold palace. Once out, you can eat 8 meals a day. I refused to believe it. The Empress loves food so much. She must be tempted. I'll gamble on it. If I win, I'll have the Empress in my arms in sweet dreams tonight. But I'm hungry. If I don't eat, I'll die. I pursed my lips and lowered my gaze. Eunuch Li, summon the meal. Xie Yan said through gritted teeth. How utterly annoying. Does the Empress know I can't do anything about her? She always has me wrapped around her finger like this. If I hadn't heard Xie Yan's thoughts, I would never have realized that all these years, he had indeed granted my every wish, even though he always wore a dark expression. So his words and heart didn't match. What is the Empress thinking about? By the look of it, she seems to love me even more. Xie Yan's inner monologue continued non-stop. Soon, the table before me was filled with delicacies from the imperial kitchen. Bird's nest stewed with rock sugar, steamed duck paste, bamboo roll cakes, pine nut lily pastry, minced meat and sesame cakes. Father, I beg you, stop colluding with the enemy. Your daughter really wants to eat these every day. After finishing a whole plate of pine nut lily pastry, I noticed Xie Yan hadn't even touched his chopsticks. Your Majesty, why aren't you eating? How can I eat when the Empress has finished everything? Why does the Empress look at these dishes with more affection than she looks at me? I'm too angry to eat. I looked at the empty plate in my hand and fell silent. Xie Yan suddenly stood up. I have important matters to attend to. The Empress may eat slowly. With that, he turned and left in a sweep of his sleeves. So fast I didn't even have time to bow farewell. Why didn't the Empress ask me to stay? Oh no, I'll have to sleep alone again tonight. If it rains now, those will be my tears. I finally couldn't hold back and burst out laughing. Chun Tao and Xia He looked at me suspiciously. I waved my hand. Pack up the rest. Remember to sneak some lunch from the imperial kitchen later. Xie Yan didn't return to the cold palace all afternoon. When it was properly dark, I took a packet of pastries and a few stolen buns, sneaking out of the palace under cover of night. When I reached the imperial prison gate, there was no one on duty. Heaven was helping me. But the prison was huge. I searched for the time it takes an incense stick to burn but couldn't find my parents or my brother and his wife. As I stood at a crossroads wondering whether to go left or right, a light suddenly appeared. Startled, I immediately hid in the nearby bushes. Have you heard? The cell at the very end holds the Empress's own father. He was already both Prime Minister and the Emperor's father-in-law. Why would he be so foolish as to commit treason? You can't figure it out, and neither can I. My father's treason was far too sudden. Thanks to these two prison guards, I easily found my parents and my brother and his wife. The four of them were sitting in a row backs to me. They were shaking their heads, doing who knows what. I looked around. No one in sight. Stealthily, I knocked on the cell door 6 times. 3 long, 3 short. After knocking, I raised the bundle in my hand. Father, mother, brother, sister-in-law, I brought you food. My parents and my brother and his wife all turned their heads simultaneously, their mouths smeared with sauce. My parents and brother reacted quickly, immediately hiding what was in their hands. Only my silly, good-natured sister-in-law was left holding a glossy, glistening braised pork knuckle. She greeted me cheerfully. Yunqing, you're here. I smiled, turned, and walked away. Why was their prison food so good? I didn't even get a pork knuckle. Yunqing. Wait. My brother called out to me. I stopped and looked back at him. Brother, do you miss me? No. Leave the things in your hands before you go. My affection was misplaced after all. It was all the pork knuckles' fault. So fragrant it made me delirious. On the way back to the palace, my mind was full of that pork knuckle drenched in sauce, tender and springy with one bite. As a result, I took the wrong gate back to the palace. After many twists and turns, I suddenly didn't recognize the way. I could only rely on memory and head toward the well-lit area. Half an hour later, standing before the familiar entrance of the Empress's palace, I was utterly dismayed. Fortunately, the palace was dark, not a soul in sight. It seemed Xie Yan was staying in the Hall of Mental Cultivation. I couldn't hold on any longer. Exhausted and sleepy, I felt for the bed and fell asleep immediately. Half asleep, half awake, the bed beside me dipped. I was pulled into a familiar embrace. The scent of agarwood made me want to nestle deeper into those arms. This incense was nice. I'd have Chun Tao sneak some back tomorrow to scent the cold palace too. I dreamt Xie Yan had turned into a dog, circling around me, refusing to leave. The next day, before I'd even opened my eyes upon waking, Xie Yan's voice drifted over. The Empress is so fragrant and soft. I love it. I finally slept well again. I truly can't live without the Empress. Those old fools yesterday afternoon actually wanted me to depose the Empress. I sent that just asking for my life. Luckily, I scolded every single one of them back. I'm so magnificent. Is it too much to hold the Empress a little longer? Not too much, I replied in my heart. But he'd been holding me for so long. I needed to use the privy. So I pretended to have just woken up, slowly opening my eyes. Your Majesty, good morning. The smile on Xie Yan's face instantly froze. Not early. I must attend court. With that, he got out of bed and started dressing. Why doesn't the Empress help me dress? She wasn't like this before. Does she not love me anymore? Your Majesty. Xie Yan's figure stiffened. I knew it. The Empress still loves me. Could you move aside? I need to use the privy or I'll die. When nature calls, I really couldn't hold it any longer. Pushing past Xie Yan, I sprinted toward the privy. Behind me, Xie Yan's voice gradually faded. The Empress must be treating me like this because I imprisoned the Prime Minister. I must work diligently. Quickly overturn the Prime Minister's case. The sooner the case is overturned, the sooner the Empress will return to my side. Nights without the Empress are too hard to bear. I never want to experience it again. What excuse can I use to sleep with the Empress tonight? Xie Yan actually wanted to overturn my father's case? He actually believed my father hadn't committed treason? Before returning to the cold palace, I casually stole a few buns from the imperial kitchen. Today's buns had carrot and lamb filling, and their aroma carried from far away. Chun Tao and Xia He were kicking a shuttlecock in the cold palace courtyard. Seeing me return, they hurried over and took the buns from my hands. In the time it took me to drink some tea, they'd eaten all but one. By the way, Your Highness, His Majesty came looking for you again last night. Xia He and I told him you retired right after dinner. I decided not to tell Chun Tao the truth. To spare her from dreaming she was beheaded for deceiving the emperor. The cold palace was terribly boring. I sat in the courtyard practicing calligraphy, while Chun Tao and Xia He embroidered new patterns nearby. I hadn't held a brush in a long time. My arm grew sore after a while. Chun Tao, did you bring the white flower oil tribute from the western regions? I think so, let me look. Chun Tao absent-mindedly rubbed my arm. Your Highness, what are we having for dinner? The scent of white flower oil made me drowsy, my mind foggy. Whatever's in the imperial kitchen. Xin Yun Qing. You think this is a resort palace? A sharp voice suddenly rang out, piercing my ears. Song Guifei barged in with the Empress Dowager, full of imposing manner. I knelt with Chun Tao and Xia He behind the Empress Dowager, paying our respects. We knelt for a long time, but she didn't tell us to rise. I secretly glanced up. The Empress Dowager looked around and snorted coldly. The Prime Minister committed treason. His Majesty is lenient for old time's sake by not deposing the Empress. How is it the Empress lives so leisurely in the cold palace? Since the Empress doesn't understand propriety, kneel here and reflect. The Empress Dowager was not Xie Yan's birth mother. Xie Yan's birth mother was the late Emperor's original Empress, who passed away early. Xie Yan was then raised by the current Empress Dowager, who was Consort Song at the time. Later, when Xie Yan ascended the throne, Consort Song naturally became Empress Dowager. She had never gotten along with me, because originally, her chosen candidate for Empress was her niece, the current Song Guifei. These two had given me plenty of trouble before. Now, with my father committing such a major crime, they would surely seize every opportunity to kick me while I was down. Father, your daughter is doomed because of you. His Majesty arrives. I had never found these 4 words so pleasant to hear. Xie Yan, still in his dragon robes, it seemed he had just left court, hurried toward me. His voice grew closer as well. Luckily I had the foresight to have the shadow guards keep an eye on the cold palace. Has the Empress Dowager tired of living? How dare she? How dare she? Apart from kneeling during the coronation ceremony together, the Empress has never had to kneel to anyone, not even me on regular days. My heart aches. Since gaining the mind-reading ability, Xie Yan had become a completely different person in my eyes. Although he had always been very good to me before, I always thought it was just mutual respect between Emperor and Empress. Only now did I know he actually cared for me so deeply. Xie Yan helped me up from the ground, his sharp gaze sweeping over the Empress Dowager and Song Guifei. Mother Empress Yunqing is my empress. No one but me may lay a hand on her. Not even you. I hope there is no next time. If there's a next time, don't blame me for disregarding family ties. When I go mad, I'll even attack myself. The Empress Dowager staggered back a step. Yener Prime Minister Shen committed treason. Shen Yunqing is now the daughter of a criminal. You. Mother Empress, I do not wish to repeat myself. The Empress Dowager waved her hand. Fine, fine. I am old, my words carry no weight. Then Mother Empress should rest early. I will have the Imperial Pharmacy prepare some calming tea for you later. If you know your words carry no weight, then stop talking. Does this empire belong to the Xie family, or the Song family? Dare to touch my empress? How many heads do you have? The Empress Dowager's face immediately turned ashen. Your Majesty. Song Guifei, holding the Empress Dowager's arm, shot me a hidden glare before speaking sweetly to Xie Yan. Mother Empress is only thinking of the state and its welfare. What does that mean? Implying I'm not. Where's my sword? Can I make her shut up forever? I feared Xie Yan might actually chop Song Guifei in a moment of impulse. I quietly tugged his sleeve. Xie Yan's clenched fist suddenly loosened, and he took my hand instead. Before the truth of the Prime Minister's case is uncovered, for the Empress's safety, wherever I am, the Empress will be. Yener. Your Majesty. Xie Yan shot them a sharp glance, and the Empress Dowager and Song Guifei immediately closed their mouths. I'm so brilliant. Thought of such a perfect reason to keep the Empress by my side. I can hold the Empress while sleeping again tonight. This empire should be grateful to have such a wise and mighty emperor as me. Why are the Empress's hands so cold? Have the Imperial Kitchen prepare 8 extra dishes tonight. To nourish the Empress. As we walked, I realized this wasn't the path back to the Empress's palace. Your Majesty, where are we going? Xie Yan said calmly. To the Hall of Mental Cultivation. I still have memorials to review. I softly said. Oh. Xie Yan's thoughts sounded again. Why did the Empress say oh? Does she think accompanying me in the Hall of Mental Cultivation is too boring? What to do? Should I try to salvage this? Your Majesty. I stopped Xie Yan, curling my lips into a smile at him. State affairs come first. I understand. My Empress is the best in the world. No, I can't take it. The Empress's lips are so red. I really want to kiss her. Unexpectedly, Xie Yan actually stopped and had the guards and palace maids turn around. He wrapped an arm around my waist and leaned down. I'm going mad. I love the Empress so much. Who understands? For the first time, I felt Xie Yan's kiss was so captivating. Xie Yan spent the entire day reviewing memorials in the Hall of Mental Cultivation, and I accompanied him the whole day, pouring his tea, grinding his ink. The glow of the setting sun fell on his profile through the window frame. As I watched, I actually fell asleep. Yunqing, wake up. Xie Yan patted me, pulling me to sit at the table. Dinner was already laid out, and indeed 8 extra dishes were added. He kept placing food in my bowl. I don't care for these. The Empress should eat more. I specifically had the Imperial Kitchen prepare the Empress's favorite dishes. I am the most considerate husband in the world. Looking at the bowl piled mountain high, I said, Your Majesty, I do like these dishes. Hearing this, Xie Yan's eyes lit up. He even deliberately coughed dryly behind his hand. But I truly can't eat this much. If I eat too much, I'll die too. With that, I transferred some of the food from my bowl to his. Xie Yan silently ate it all. The food the Empress gives me tastes better. That was originally what you gave me. After dinner, Xie Yan still had many memorials left to review. I had intended to continue accompanying him, but looking down, I suddenly caught a whiff of a sour odor on myself. Your Majesty, I shall bathe first. If I don't bathe, I'll die. Xie Yan put down his imperial brush, glanced at me, and nodded. The Empress is leaving me. The Hall of Mental Cultivation is so big. I don't want to be here alone. Why are there so many memorials? These old fellows write memorials for the tiniest matters. Aren't they annoying? My time is precious. I never truly knew before that Xie Yan was so two-faced. After hearing his thoughts these past few days, I was about to develop internal injuries from holding back laughter. Having not bathed for 2 days, I had Chun Tao and Xia He add extra plum blossom petals and happily soaked to my heart's content. Perhaps I soaked too long. Xia Yan grew anxious and came to knock on the door. Yun Qing. Your Majesty, I'll be right out. The next moment, I heard Xia Yan's thoughts again. I've never bathed with the Empress before. All these years. Never. Oh dear, I called out to the door. Your Majesty, I think I've fallen. As soon as the words left my mouth, Xia Yan rushed in, his face full of panic. Once he saw I was tricking him, his face darkened and he turned to leave. I need to find out who taught the Empress this. She actually learned to deceive me. Your Majesty, I really did fall. If you don't believe me, come see. I pouted, putting on a wronged expression. Xia Yan sighed, resigning himself as he walked toward me. But just as he reached me, I reached out and pulled him into the bathing pool. Xia Yan probably had never indulged so recklessly before. The water in the pool grew cold again and again before he finally carried me back to the hall of mental cultivation. Exhausted, I leaned against his chest and fell into a deep sleep. The next day when I woke, Xia Yan was already dressed and standing before me. Chun Tao brought over a bowl of thick, dark liquid. Xia Yan took the bowl and personally fed me. Drink this. The Empress Dowager always said I couldn't bear children for the royal family. This was the reason Xia Yan and I had been childless for 10 years of marriage. Every time, he would bestow upon me a bowl of contraceptive soup. Thinking of this, a wave of sourness suddenly rose in my heart. I snatched the bowl from Xia Yan's hands and drank it down in one go. I've finished. Xia Yan's hand holding the spoon trembled slightly. Why are the Empress's eyes red? Is she angry because I made her drink the contraceptive soup? But I really don't want a prince right now. I'm still young. I can still strive on my own. Having a prince now would just be competing with me for the Empress. No one can compete with me for the Empress. Not even a child born to the Empress and me. I had initially felt like crying, but now I couldn't. I never imagined Xia Yan's reason for giving me contraceptive soup was so absurd. Later, whenever he wanted me to drink the contraceptive soup again, I would cling to him. I don't want to drink the contraceptive soup. I want to have a child with your Majesty. If I don't have a child, I'll die. Xia Yan, helpless, could only comply. But his thoughts were, only one. My limit is one. You better be sensible and be a prince. I lived in the hall of mental cultivation for over half a month. Only then did I learn that the pork knuckle that day was actually sent to the prison by Xia Yan. He was afraid my parents and brother's family would go hungry. Not only did he send pork knuckles, but also oil-braised prawns, sweet and sour ribs, steamed meatballs. The next time I secretly slipped into the imperial prison, I ran into them eating sweet and sour mandarin fish. Their faces had rounded so much I almost didn't recognize them. So I asked Xia Yan, "Why does your Majesty always send food to the prison?" Xia Yan replied solemnly, "The Prime Minister is an important prisoner. Of course he must be well taken care of. The Empress's family is my family. I'd like to enshrine them if I could. The Shadow Guard should be back in a few days with new information. Wait for me. I'll soon be able to release your father." From the beginning, I firmly believed my father's brain wasn't capable of treason. I never expected Xia Yan to act so quickly and already have a lead. "Your Majesty, I've learned a new pattern. Shall I embroider a sachet for you? If the Empress wishes to embroider, then do so." Xia Yan's features in the soft, hazy light appeared faintly indistinct. The next moment, his thoughts arrived as scheduled. "Ah, the Empress is going to embroider a sachet for me. This isn't just a sachet. It's the Empress's love for me. I must hang it in the most conspicuous place. Where should I hang it? Maybe put it on a string and wear it around my neck." The next day, holding the sachet I embroidered, he examined it for a moment and praised, "The duck the Empress embroidered is quite good." I fell silent for a long time before hesitantly saying, "Your Majesty, those are mandarin ducks." Xia Yan smoothly corrected himself. "These mandarin ducks are embroidered quite well." "Ah, I said the wrong thing again. The Empress won't stop embroidering sachets for me now, will she? I'll love anything the Empress embroiders. Even if it's a pig, I'll love it." I smiled. Your Majesty, after I learn another pattern, I'll embroider a new one for you. Upon hearing I was living in the hall of mental cultivation, inseparable from Xie day and night, Song Guifei made several scenes, both openly and secretly. Openly, she came to the hall of mental cultivation to deliver soup and snacks, craning her neck to peek inside, glaring at me whenever she saw me. Both she and the food were thrown out by Xie Yan. Song Yuyan, who do you think you are? Daring to come to the hall of mental cultivation? Get lost. What if the Empress thinks I'm fickle? If I didn't want to see what Mother Empress and Imperial Tutor Song are plotting, I would never have let you enter the palace. And after entering you still won't behave. Just like Imperial Tutor Song. Full of nonsense. Secretly, she spread rumors that I was a calamitous seductress. When Xie Yan found out, he was so angry he crushed the teacup in his hand, severely punishing the palace servants who gossiped. My Empress is someone you're qualified to discuss. If the Empress wanted my empire, I'd hand it to her with both hands. Hearing Xie Yan's bold declaration, I couldn't help but shiver. You keep it yourself. My frail shoulders can't bear the weight of an empire. Those palace servants, for some reason, had mouths looser than their waistbands. After just a few strokes of the cane, they gave up Song Guifei. It was all Song Guifei who ordered us. Song Guifei gave each of us 20 taels of silver to speak ill of Her Majesty the Empress. We didn't want to, but it was 20 taels of silver. Xie Yan's temple twitched. He ordered people to arrest Song Guifei immediately. As soon as Song Guifei was taken, the Empress Dowager and Imperial Tutor Song arrived at the Hall of Mental Cultivation. Your Majesty, what exactly has you Jiao done wrong? Imperial Tutor Song knelt before Xie Yan, tears streaming down his old face. Xie Yan's face was like still water. Song Guifei called the Empress a calamitous seductress. Does that not make me a foolish ruler? The Empress Dowager chimed in from the side. Yu Jiao is still just a child. Xie Yan fell silent. Do you think I'm a fool? A child this big? Only the Song family's children grow in age but not in brains. Other people's mouths are for eating. Song Yuyan's mouth is for spreading rumors. My palace actually has such rotten people. Moreover, the Empress's father did commit treason. Yu Jiao just spoke wrongly in a moment of anxiety, the Empress Dowager said gracefully. Even that can be said wrong? Her tongue must be completely twisted. When it comes to shamelessly lying with eyes wide open, the Empress Dowager takes the crown. Truly the older one gets the more shameless. Xie Yan straightened his expression. I have already found evidence. The one who committed treason was not the Prime Minister, but someone else. Hearing this, both the Empress Dowager and Imperial Tutor Song were stunned. After they left, I emerged from behind the curtain. Has Your Majesty found evidence proving my father did not commit treason? Xie Yan nodded, pulling me into his embrace. I studied the secret letters the Prime Minister allegedly wrote to the enemy for a long time and found they did not contain state secrets. The Prime Minister's handwriting is like ghost scribbles. Luckily, back when I was trying to marry the Empress and curry favor with the Prime Minister, I specifically studied his calligraphy and paintings. That's how I can barely make out what he wrote. Prime Minister. Well written. Please don't write again next time. Even my mother couldn't recognize my father's handwriting. Xie Yan had it hard. Then what did they say? Can Your Majesty tell me? I want to know. If I don't know, I'll die. They were all recipes. After a pause, he added, ancient recipes. Right. That's exactly something my father would do. I carefully considered it. Those recipes actually seem quite good. I'll have the Imperial Kitchen learn them tomorrow and cook them for the Empress. A considerate husband like me is rare. Empress, you must hold on to me tightly. I chuckled inwardly, turning to hug Xie Yan. Your Majesty, I care for you deeply. In this life, I only wish to remain by your side. Without Your Majesty, I would die. After saying this, my lips touched Xie Yan's forehead. The next moment, his thoughts flooded over me like a tidal wave. Ah, the Empress said she cares for me deeply. The Empress said she would die without me. The Empress even kissed me on her own initiative. 10 years ago, I drank with the Prime Minister all night just to get him to agree to let me marry the Empress. After marriage, the Empress was always lukewarm toward me. I was almost dying of grievance. 10 years. I've finally waited for this. I'm exploding. I'm exploding into fireworks. So Xie Yan and I had actually wasted 10 years. I thought he married me as Empress to gain the support of the Prime Minister's household. That's why I was never particularly warm toward him. Plus, this man was truly two-faced. If I hadn't heard his thoughts, who knows how much longer we would have missed each other. Xie Yan quickly turned defense into offense, and the room was filled with Spring's tender affection. A few more days passed. The shadow guards returned with new information, and Xie Yan suddenly decided to leave the palace. I lazily reclined on the daybed. Your Majesty, go by yourself. I don't want to go. If I go, I'll die from exhaustion. I am not at ease leaving you alone in the palace, Xie Yan said seriously. Empress, come with me. If you're not by my side, I'll die. I can die easily too. I smiled, changed clothes, and accompanied him out of the palace. First, we went to the imperial prison. As expected, my parents' and brother's family had grown another round. Xie Yan stood outside the cell, spoke with my father for a moment, telling him the truth would soon come to light. Prime Minister, I believe you are definitely not a traitor. My father's eyes welled up. Your Majesty actually trusts this old subject so much. What is the Prime Minister saying? Just because you're the Empress's birth father. Shouldn't I trust you? Prime Minister. Xie Yan cleared his throat. I deciphered your secret letters. The look in my father's eyes when he looked at Xie Yan instantly held several more degrees of admiration. After all, there weren't many people who could understand his unparalleled, wildly cursive script. Xie Yan was one. So far the only one. After leaving the imperial prison, Xie Yan held my hand, walking from the East Market to the West Market, then back from the West Market to the East Market. He bought a pile of useless things while constantly looking around. I also looked in the direction he was glancing. Is your Majesty waiting for someone? Xie Yan replied absently. I've practically walked through both markets. Those damned assassins, why aren't they here yet? Could the Shadow Guard's intelligence be wrong? I'll deduct all their salaries. Before I could ponder why he was waiting for assassins, black-clad figures suddenly surged from all directions, wielding large cleavers, charging towards Xie Yan and me. Xie Yan held me, sidestepping a slash, and hid behind the Shadow Guards. Soon the Shadow Guards had dealt with all the assassins. Next time, can't you find some more skilled assassins? I'm not even injured. How can I continue the act? An act? I looked at Xie Yan, only to find him staring intently at a Shadow Guard's sword. I am sacrificing for the greater cause. The next moment, Xie Yan suddenly pulled out the Shadow Guard's sword and gave himself a slash. I stared dumbfounded at his bleeding arm. Your Majesty! Xie Yan clutched his wound. It's nothing serious. It hurts so much. It was clearly just a shallow cut, already treated on the way back to the palace. Yet the first thing Xie Yan did upon returning was summon all the imperial physicians on duty to the Hall of Mental Cultivation. He even told Eunuch Li to catch a chicken and fill a basin with its blood. Soon, news of the emperor being assassinated spread throughout the entire palace. Within half a day, court officials came one after another. Even the Empress Dowager personally paid a visit to the Hall of Mental Cultivation. All were righteously turned away by Eunuch Li guarding the hall entrance. His Majesty's dragon body is unwell. He will not see anyone. The emperor with the unwell dragon body was currently squatting beside the imperial desk in the Hall of Mental Cultivation, using the imperial seal to crack walnuts. Because I said I wanted to eat walnuts. Why are these walnuts so hard to crack? But walnuts I crack with my own hands should taste better. Keep cracking. My heart pounded as I watched the imperial seal hit the walnuts again and again. He cracked a full plate of walnuts. Not a single corner of the seal was damaged. High-quality jade material was indeed extraordinary. Walnuts cracked by Xie Yan's own hands did indeed taste better. In the middle of the night, the sound of fighting suddenly erupted outside the hall, along with soaring flames. I woke with a start, pushing Xie Yan beside me. Your Majesty, something's wrong. Xie Yan sat up drowsily, still somewhat dazed. Who is it? Disturbing my beautiful dream. Oh, it's the Empress. Never mind then. It sounds like a fight outside. It's fine. Let's sleep a little longer. With that, he actually pulled me back and fell asleep again. When the sky began to lighten, peace finally returned outside. Xie Yan got up and dressed. The Imperial Guard commander had been waiting outside the hall for some time. Your Majesty, the Empress Dowager and Imperial Tutorsong's faction colluded with foreign enemies in an attempt to rebel. All have been captured. I knew it. Everything is under my control. Xie Yan nodded slightly. Where are they? All are outside the main hall. Xie Yan looked at me. Empress, accompany me to see the real traitors. The Prime Minister will soon be exonerated. I'm so excited. The Empress will soon be reunited with her family. Actually, I thought they were doing quite well in prison. Really quite well. The Empress Dowager and Imperial Tutorsong were tied up and held outside the hall. Disheveled, their hair in disarray. Their expensive, luxurious robes were stained with mud. Seeing Xie Yan and me come out, the Empress Dowager widened her eyes in shock. Yenner, you're not dead? You're not dead, how could I die? If I hadn't pretended to be seriously injured from the assassination, how could the Empress Dowager's wolfish ambitions have been revealed? Fooled, weren't you? Ha 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 ha. With brains like this, you still want to fight me? Are you crazy? Or am I crazy? The Empress Dowager looked Xie Yan up and down several times before turning her face away, silent. Imperial Tutorsong refused to give up. How did you discover it? Xie Yan glanced sidelong at him. When you presented the Prime Minister's alleged treasonous letters, I already had doubts. Apart from the Prime Minister, the only ones who could have accessed those letters were the enemy state. I waited so long just for you fools to walk right into the trap. Imperial Tutorsong wore an expression of sudden understanding, but it was too late. Guards, take the Empress Dowager and the Imperial Tutor to the prison. Execution scheduled for a later date. Right, and Song Yuyen too. Chop them all. Chop everyone. I've wanted to chop her for a long time. Your Majesty. I leaned close to Xie Yan, whispering, let Song Guifei join the remaining Song family members and be registered as slaves. Compared to the Empress Dowager and Imperial Tutorsong, she hadn't done anything truly heinous. Xie Yan held my hand. Good. As the Empress wishes. The next day, I saw my parents' and brother's family released from the Imperial prison. Having gained so much weight, their old clothes no longer fit. They needed new clothes tailored again. My father and mother hugged me, my brother and sister-in-law each holding one of my arms. Yun Qing, we missed you so much. Don't you miss us? Why haven't you lost weight or looked haggard? Probably because I didn't get to eat pork knuckles. Epilogue. 1 year later. I gave birth to a little prince. The day the little prince was born, I suddenly could no longer hear Xie Yan's thoughts, because he had completely stopped pretending. He roared outside the delivery room. Why is giving birth so difficult? Can't I give birth for the Empress instead? You'd better be sensible and come out quickly, or I'll execute your 9 sets of relatives. Eunuch reminded him. Your Majesty, that is your Majesty's prince. Executing 9 sets of relatives might not be appropriate. The entire palace couldn't understand how their wise and mighty emperor had changed his nature overnight. Only I knew. He had always been like this.
Thank you for listening Beneath the Moonlight. If this story touched your heart, remember to subscribe to Moonlit Love Stories for more tales of love and destiny. Until we meet again, may the moonlight keep you company.